Welcome. February 5th, 2026. We're just at 6 p.m. and we've got decent agenda in front of us, not too hefty this evening. But, of course, we've got special guests in the audience. We always like to start our meetings out with an invocation. And we have with us Bishop Bobby Ray Watson of the Powerhouse of Prayer in the audience this evening. Bishop Watson, come on up to the podium. Thank you for being here today. Bishop Bobby Watson has been in the Selma community for over 38 years. He's been a pastor 1987. Named Bishop 1997. He's married to his wife Rosalind, and they have 4 children together: Andrea, Michelle, Jeffrey, and Bobby Jr. They also have 4 grandchildren. 1 great. Now wait a minute, that's Chandrella. Yeah. Chandrella's right here. Yeah. What's up, brother? So yeah, Chandrella, Michelle, Jeffrey, and Bobby Jr. So 4 grandchildren, 1 great grandchild. That's awesome. That's awesome. You would have got the microphone right here for you, and if everyone would please stand.
Okay. Just like they said, I thank God for the invitation to be here. We just thank God for this night. We get ready to say the prayer. Most holy, precious, wise God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the creator of the heaven and the universe. Lord, we need you right now in a time like this. Give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding, know how to be led by your own Holy Spirit and not to be led by our understanding. Lord, we thank you right now and ask you to bless this meeting. Help us to be able to come together on one accord, touching and agreeing. Lord, give the mayor wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Lord, give the councilman wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And the one that's coming, Lord, seeking for help and advice, Lord, that they won't go back or nor, but they will get the help and the understanding that they need. Lord, help us to realize we're doing judgment work. Lord, help us to realize this to upbuild not only the Selma and the community, but upbuild your kingdom. Your people may come and see how beautiful Selma is and how beautiful it can be. That we are working together, touching and agreeing on one accord to build this town. Lord, we just want to thank and give your name the praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Bishop, thank you so very much. If we remain standing, we have Councilman Overby here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All place the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and before us, we have an agenda to look at. I know staff had an adjustment that would like to be made. What was that?
Yes, sir. I would like to request that we swap item 6A and 6C. So capital forward presentation is the first discussion.
Okay, so we're going to swap 6A and 6C. That'll move the capital forward conversation first. The Parks and Recreation cost analysis will go last. And then under 9, we're going to add a B for, we're going to make some adjustments to our Upper Coastal Plains RPO TAC committee representative. So we'll make that 9B. Were there any adjustments that need to be made? Very good. With that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments? Second?
Second.
We'll give a second to Councilwoman Whitley. First to Mayor Pro Tem Scarborough on that one. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We've got ourselves an agenda And that brings us into our business items. It's a censure hearing. And to make sure we all understand what a censure hearing is, it is not a censor hearing. We've had some questions about that. It's not about censorship. It's called a censure hearing, C-E-N-S-U-R-E. With that being said, it is something that governments have to internally, quite frankly, reprimand members of local government. With that being said, we do have a censure hearing to put on related to the conduct of Councilmember Susan Parrish Watson. So with that, Councilman Watson, if you would, take the podium.
Oh, okay.
And then what we'll do is I will read through kind of a censure statement. Hopefully it'll take a few minutes, but then we'll give Council Member Watson 10 minutes to respond to that statement. And then we'll take up a possible resolution censure of Councilmember Parrish Watson. Okay? So I'm gonna actually time myself to make sure I'm not talking too long and give you the appropriate amount of time as well. Councilman Watson, you have a history of conduct that does not meet the standards expected of Selma Town Council members. Shortly after being appointed to the Selma Town Council by this panel that you stand before today, you began using your office as a Selma Town Council member in an inappropriate manner. In late January, early February of 2024, many Town of Selma residents received a letter from the Conservative Voter Alliance championing a candidate for Congress that was signed by you and noted that you are a current Town of Selma councilman. Your active participation championing the candidate for Congress while using your Town of Selma council member title clearly rose to the level of political activity inappropriate to your office, even after the candidate decided to suspend their campaign. Your political activity seems to have leaked into our last Town of Selma election cycle outside of your own campaign, as you regularly asked for town information from our employees that was not used as part of your own re-election campaign. When the information you requested did not paint the picture you had hoped, the information was not considered or used for any Town of Selma purpose. You are expected to regulate your extra governmental activities to minimize the risk of conflict with your official duties. You have regularly taken up significant amounts of staff time seeking information that is beyond the scope of anything pertinent to current council matters. You recently went out of your way to share a confidential council conversation with a staff member and told me that you did. Beyond that, we have found that information about the Town of Selma and Town of Selma activities arising out of closed session has been shared with people outside of the Town of Selma organization on multiple occasions. One such incident found Mayor Pro Tem Scarborough and I receiving information from elected officials of other governments about a closed session conversation from the July 8th, 2025 council meeting the night before. These actions are clear breaches of our confidentiality agreement. That is part of the Code of Ethics and the Town Council Rules of Procedures. Staff and your fellow council members have gone out of their way to remind you that closed session information is not to be discussed outside of closed session. You have regularly in meetings made statements about people you know and how long you have known them and how good you think they are when we are taking up legislative matters concerning those individuals or organizations they are connected to. These statements, at the very least, give the appearance of impropriety in your activities. In one instance, when our council had a matter come before us concerning a developer, you mentioned how well you knew the developer. And you shared during that meeting that the developer could not make a meeting because they were fishing with somebody close to you. At a subsequent meeting, you made an inappropriate statement indicating we had permitted a development for that developer that we had not permitted. This is just one example of several inappropriate and ill-advised statements you have made during a meeting. You have regularly shared with us, your fellow council members, the advice you have gotten from outside entities and outside legal counsel about our Town of Selma activities and procedure. With this, you have often shared the fact that you are discussing sensitive Town of Selma matters with these entities and have attempted to have us follow the direction the other entities have suggested. You have gone as far as to insist we use taxpayer funds to pay local business owners because you were concerned about their financial status. To know the financial status of an outside entity is one thing, but to have that information be a concern of the Selma Town Council is problematic. Upholding the integrity and independence of your office is important, and your regular conversations in attempting to convince your fellow council members to follow the lead and or whims of other organizations clearly violates that tenet. Our internal efforts and procedures should not be decided by outside entities beyond the legislature of our state and federal government. The work of our community always necessitates considerate and thoughtful communication with our community partners. The work of the town must be done diligently by each council member as work is assigned. A couple of weeks ago, I received an email from the Upper Coastal Plain Rural Planning Organization stating they were reaching out to confirm the Town of Selma's designated representative for the Upper Coastal Plain RPO Transportation Advisory Committee. The Town of Selma holds an at-large seat on the UCP RPO TAC, and we strongly encourage the town to fill this seat and participate actively, as municipal input is an important component of the regional transportation planning process. And the understanding is that Councilwoman Susan Watson has previously served as Selma's TAC representative. UCPRPO stated they reached out to you directly to confirm your continued participation, but have not yet heard back. So they wanted to check with me to confirm whether you are still the town's appointed TAC member, or if the town anticipates making a new appointment. You have failed to perform the duties of your office diligently. By not actively performing your duties as a UCP RPO TAC representative, this prevents the town of Selma from having valuable input into transportation development in and around our community. I recommend this council remove you as our Upper Coastal Plains Rural Planning Organization Transportation Advisory Committee representative and appoint a new council member. You have now resigned as a Town of Selma council member twice, with the first time being on July of 2025. You have rescinded your resignation twice. You saw fit to let the local newspaper know you resigned on January 27th, 2026, shortly after you were made aware that you would be facing a censure hearing, without even being sure your fellow council members were fully aware of your resignation notice. You sent an email that afternoon with an attached resignation letter to the Selma Town Council stating, I am writing in response to the email I received pertaining to the mayor's intent to conduct a censure hearing regarding my conduct as a member of the board. I will not be in attendance on February 3rd. I already had planned to tender my resignation at our next monthly meeting, but your baseless allegations only confirm my decision and will now expedite that action. See the attached letter making my resignation effective immediately. My resignation should not be construed as agreement with or an admission of any alleged misconduct or failure to honorably and ethically perform my duties as a council member. Although these matters are rendered moot by my resignation, I expressly reserve all rights to respond should there be any further discussion or action related to these issues. In the interest of the town and its residents, I believe it would be appropriate to conclude this matter at this time, end quote. You rescinded that resignation on February 3rd, 2026. I'm thankful this council continues to show patience with your conduct and was willing to give you time to consider your resignation before we officially voted to accept your resignation. I know we, as your fellow council members, have been incredibly patient with you and have gone out of our way to address your conduct outside of this public setting. We have amazing opportunities and challenges ahead of us in the town of Selma. The challenges and opportunities will take a serious effort from each council member going forward to ensure we provide our Selma citizens with the ability to maintain a first-class quality of life. Your conduct must meet the standards expected of all Selma Town Council members to achieve the goals and objectives of our stakeholders, our citizens, the goals and objectives of our neighbors. This censure hearing and the taking up of a resolution of censure for your violations of the Code of Ethics outlined in the Selma Town Council Rules of Procedures is an effort to express that need for proper and reasonable conduct from you as a member of the Selma Town Council going forward. We'll give you 10 minutes to respond to that statement.
First,
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to bring one point of order up. On her, I'm Jim Lawrence, I'm her attorney, retained attorney. We received a notice from you, she received a notice from you concerning this censure hearing that you had, and you laid out 6 items that you were going to bring up. We requested on February the 3rd, information from you as to what exactly these allegations were. You have my letter. From what you have just addressed this assembly with, you have not, I've not received any information on what you just said from the town attorney or from yourself. It's almost that you set out one thing in your notice to her, but yet you're bringing up other things that aren't connected with this. I just would like to make that clear before she addresses and gives you a response.
thank you. Actually, you have never mentioned to me that there was any problem with my conduct, and I am just flabbergasted that you're even doing this. I resigned.
Whoa, please, quiet in the gallery, please.
When Alexis resigned, I felt it was necessary for me to step back because I knew that the way this council operates, that William and I never have any information shared with us. It's always you talking to Amy and to Joe. And so I thought it's time for me to just step back because I do research. When I call people, it's because I need information for whatever's in front of me on my agenda and I'm not getting it from you. So yes, I do go outside and talk to people. I don't see anything wrong with that. According to council, I have that right as a member of that board to research anything that's in front of me on that agenda. So let's start. I don't even know where to start. There's so many accusations in that flowery speech that I don't even know where to start. The first thing you said is inappropriate use of my position. I know you're talking about Kelly Daltrey's campaign. Kelly Daltrey's team called me and asked me if they could use my name. Normally they use Susan Watson Parish Funeral Home. That's what I'm best known for in this county. They didn't ask me if they could put town of Selma. They just did it. Sorry. I mean, that happens all the time. But I don't think that should be a problem because I see your name, Amy's name, everybody's name on all kinds of things. I don't know if they're political or not. I'm not paying attention. But I did see your sign in Amy's yard and Amy's sign in your yard. So I think it's just a freedom of, it's my right to promote any candidate I want to. I don't know. Don't have a problem with that. And talking about me using things for my election, in the 2025 election, I remained totally neutral. I didn't buy signs, palm cards. In fact, I didn't campaign at all. I figured if the people wanted me back in here, they'd put me here, and they did. The second, ill-advised, inappropriate, or inaccurate remarks during the Selma Town Council meetings. First I've ever heard that you thought I'd made any kind of inaccurate remarks. If I had, Why didn't you correct me? You know, I research and I bring things to you. It's another point of view. I think that's what my job is. Number 3, inappropriate or unreasonable communication with staff for political purposes. I don't even know what that means. I mean, we're all in here elected officials, so any conversation we have is probably political, maybe? I don't know. I have no idea what that means, Byron. Number 4, insistence on using taxpayer funds to help local business owners with financial problems. I think that might be referring to the pipe in the alleyway behind this building. I wasn't asking the council to use taxpayer money to help anybody. I was asking this council to determine if we were responsible with the repairs to that pipe, and if we were, then we needed to cover them. That was all I was asking for, clarification. But instead of clarifying and seeing what that was, your animosity toward that citizen made us spend $6,500 on a useless survey that didn't have anything to do with the prescriptive easement in that alleyway. That's what that's about, and you're still mad about it. I'm sorry. 5, sharing confidential Selma Town Council communication. You said I told you specifically I did that. That was involving a employee that you were going to blindside and talk about an incident without anybody at council knowing that side of the story. You mailed that email to all of council and said, do not discuss it outside of council. Well, I thought to myself, somebody needs to go in there and know that person's side of the story. Not fair to blindside her like that. And the first thing you need to understand about that is you can't command me to do anything. I'm elected just like you are, and you can mark something confidential, but that doesn't make it confidential. According to our legal, I called and asked, is it okay if I call and find out her side of the story? Of course it is. You've got the right to investigate and find out the other side of the story. Nothing wrong with that. And as far as stuff coming out of closed session, I have no idea what you're talking about. I know things get back to me from the town council in Smithfield. Don't know where they come from, but I always wonder, how do people know that stuff? And I've also it's been noted to me that we have a lot of extra people inside our closed sessions. So, you know, maybe they're not coming from me, Byron. Maybe you just assume that. Number 6, failure to perform my duties on the Upper Coastal Plains Regional. Once again, I will say that Micah Woodard and I, who was the former planning director, we started out with this organization with absolutely no training or background info other than an email from the organization. You asked me if I'd serve on it, I said yes. We went to work. The first meeting I went to Wilson in person so I could meet the girls there and know who they were. And then after that, Micah joined that meeting remotely. And after that, we attended the meetings remotely. Micah took the lead on it because it was about roadways and what needed to be paved and all kinds of things. And he said, let me take the lead. And whenever we need to get together, I'll call you, because we would get the maps and look at things and put them in their pecking order. And when Micah resigned, I had an email with that organizational director on the 21st of May asking if I would attend the meeting that day. I had an appointment that overlapped and I couldn't attend, and I had the email here. It's in my bag. And also, Micah left, and I went by and spoke about it to the new town manager and the new director. And I said, let me know when we've got something to do, and I'll come to your office. I told him I didn't know much about it. Micah took the lead. I left him my email address. I think it got lost in the shuffle, and then I didn't hear from her again until January. But I called her as soon as I got that January email, and I said, I'm so sorry this happened. It just fell through the cracks. We've had a lot of turnover in our staff, and I'll let you know what's going to happen. At that point, I told her that I was probably going to resign, and, you know, that it would probably be another person other than me. And yes, in July, I think there was some issue, and it might have been over the thing in the alleyway, when I realized that we just don't see eye to eye on the way we treat people in the town. You know, I think if something's our responsibility, we need to take responsibility for it. And that's when I knew that this probably wasn't the environment I needed to be in. So, with that said, I'd like to have those comments entered into the record also as my responses. I also have a letter here I'd like to read. It says, "Dear Byron, we write to you today regarding the proposed censure of Councilwoman Susan Parrish Watson on this agenda for this evening's Selma Town Council meeting. A censure is an extraordinary tool that should only be used in the most serious of circumstances after thorough investigation and deliberation. We have received the reasoning that you intend to consider for censure, and it fails to meet that heightened standard. In fact, it appears that this is an attempt to chill legitimate speech with official town action and punish someone that you believe is a political opponent. Councilwoman Watson is deeply committed to the town of Selma and Johnston County. She has a long-standing commitment to public service and has served on a number of different boards at local and state levels with distinction, including currently being the chairwoman of the Johnston County Department of Social Services. She is trusted by Selma residents that she represents. We have watched the council meetings, and it appears that she is a fair advocate and brings important perspective to debates. We want to see the town continue to move forward and grow. This appears, however, to be a serious distraction from the work that the town of Selma should be doing to serve its citizens and businesses. We respectfully ask that you reconsider your decision to move forward with this censure. Respectfully, Senator Benton Sorry and Representative Larry Strickland." And I guess I can say they've known me forever. Maybe that's not allowed.
We're at a little over 10 minutes, so we'll call that your statement. Thank you very much for your response. With that, we do have a resolution of censure to take up. And if you'd like, Councilwoman Watson, we can allow you to recuse yourself from this vote.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion to allow Councilwoman Watson to recuse herself from this vote.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Very cool. Resolution of censure of Councilmember Susan Parrish Watson. Whereas during her tenure as a member of the Selma Town Council, Councilmember Susan Watson has inappropriately used the position as a Selma Town Council member to actively promote a political candidate for an office that represents our community, made ill-advised, inappropriate, and inaccurate remarks during Selma Town Council meetings, had inappropriate or unreasonable communication with staff for political purposes, insisted on using taxpayer funds to help local business owners with financial problems, shared confidential Selma Town Council communications when explicitly instructed not to do so, including information coming out of Selma Town Council closed sessions with outside parties, and failed to perform her duties as our Upper Coastal Plains Regional Planning Organization representative. And whereas these actions violate the Code of Ethics outlined in the Selma Town Council Rules of Procedures approved by the Selma Town Council on October 13th, 2020, which requires council members to uphold the integrity and independence of his or her office and to avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all his or her activities, and to perform the duties of the office diligently and to regulate his or her extra-governmental activities to minimize the risk of conflict with his or her official duties, and to refrain from political activity inappropriate to his or her office, and adhere to the Selma Town Council confidentiality agreement. And whereas council members have made multiple attempts to encourage better conduct from Councilmember Watson for the good of the town of Selma
That is not true.
and to avoid censure action. And whereas Ms. Watson refuses to modify her conduct and continues to conduct herself in a manner that violates the Code of Ethics outlined in our Selma Town Council Rules of Procedures. Now therefore be it resolved that the Selma Town Council, in accordance with the Code of Ethics, hereby censures Councilmember Susan Watson for the conduct described herein and condemns her actions as not meeting the standards expected of members of the town council and leaders of the town of Selma. And until further notice, Councilmember Watson shall have no direct communications with town employees other than the town manager. Any communication from Councilmember Watson, whether verbal or written, must be addressed solely to the town manager. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution of censure?
So moved.
So,
Any discussion?
I think you should really think about it hard. She's not the only one on this council that stepped out of line. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, William. Am I allowed to be a part of this discussion?
No.
No, I'm not part of the vote. You asked it for discussion. I'm part of this.
So with that being said, council member, the conversation we have been, I'd say, incredibly kid gloves about for,
Point of order, Chip? Am I not allowed to participate in the discussion? Am I not a member of this council?
With all due respect, I think the recusal keeps you from the debate.
Of course.
With all due respect.
so with that being said, we have been incredibly patient over the last few months.
Point of order. How can you adopt well, never mind.
Incredibly patient over the last few months in discussing these matters. And with that, we've had even several conversations amongst ourselves about these happenings. So I understand somewhat what you're saying, that, hey, we have seen instances of that at periods and in random spots from other council members. But at the same time, I can't say that any council member that I've ever come across, even in the previous administration, has sustained what I would say conduct outside of our rules and policies for such a significant period of time.
I disagree.
And I
Thank you,
understand.
Will.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor of adopting this resolution of censure of Councilmember Susan Paris Watson? Aye.
Nay.
That's 3, with 1 nay being Councilman William Overton. And that concludes the censure hearing. So, we've got some more business to handle, and we've kind of shifted the agenda around a little bit to accommodate this hearing. We've got a resolution directing clerk to investigate a little bit of annexation of 1400 West Oak Street.
Mayor, just for the record, I apologize, sir.
Yeah,
Have the record reflect that the recusal was limited to the hearing. And at this
yes.
point, I think, Councilmember Watson would be able to participate.
absolutely, and we don't need to make any motion otherwise. Just have the record reflect.
Have the record reflect, I think is appropriate.
Absolutely.
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the first legislative step in extending the town's corporate limits, and this has been petitioned from 1400 West Oak Street. So this resolution just needs to be adopted for staff to proceed any further.
And we're kind of testing out some new movement as far as how we run through our meetings. Is everybody okay with this resolution directing the clerk to investigate? Because if we don't have a problem with it, we can simply say we'll move this down to the consent agenda and take care of all of our votes in one fell swoop. Is everybody okay with moving this to consent?
No,
Nope.
nope. I think the application is not completed.
Ah.
There's blanks in it.
So with that, let's go ahead and discuss this resolution. And if you would, Councilman, share where you think the application is incomplete and what we might need.
Well, it's a confusion between who the owner is and who's not, and And if you go down, you'll see there's space on the applications. It asks for owner's signature and it's not there. The property owner is, and it doesn't even state it in here. Part 7, Part 8 shows, Thomas White as the owner. But yet, still again, there's no really actually, and we've talked about this many times before, when they come before us, that the owners, that these are not filled out correctly, and a lot of information missing.
Do we see that we're missing pertinent information to have you investigate the annexation?
I wouldn't say there's not enough information to proceed. I do see where there's a handful of required signature sections depending on how the property is owned. For example, section C under part 8, that is only to be signed if the property is owned by a general or limited partnership, so that would be blank. But staff can make any edits before this resolution is passed if desired.
Well, I would say that since this is just a resolution directing you to investigate, and this is not the public hearing for actual annexation, I would say that, hey, no need to slow you down on your investigation since we appear to have the paperwork we believe we need. If we do find that there's some adjustment that needs to be made, they certainly need to make those corrections before they come to a public hearing for annexation. Is that reasonable?
Of course, and one thing I did want to note is, I don't have it pulled up on my computer right now, but I am very confident that Tom White is the owner on the Secretary of State's website for Axiom River Oak LLC. So going forward, staff can put something in the staff report just to confirm if there's any inconsistencies with names. We can have a report that'll list the registered agent for any LLCs.
Very cool. All right. So with that, Councilman Overby has expressed his concern, so we certainly do need to take this to a vote outside of consent. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution directing our clerk to investigate 2025-115 dash, is that 06? 1400 West Oak Street.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
Absolutely.
So when I get the paperwork back, will it be completed?
Well, what I have asked the staff to do is check and see if the paperwork is not complete. And then they will check to make sure that before we get it at a public hearing, it is complete. Any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of adopting that resolution, say aye.
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 Nay.
We've got one nay, Councilman Overby. Good to go. Okay. Up next, we've got a CDBG application. Chief, you want to tell us about that?
Yes, sir. We were just informed, CDBG this year, they expect our funds, they're about to reopen. So that tells us it being that can. We were looking at earlier in the year, a water plant overhaul. So that's what their application. $75 fee for the application for $3 million.
Cool. Is there anybody not interested in going after the CDBG application? Is it all right if we move that down to consent? All right, we're gonna move item 5C to consent agenda, and that'll make that 7B. All right. And then we've got a look at the FY26, FY27 tourism budget.
Apologize for it's very small writing, but we can go through this. Thank Dalton and Evans for working diligently on this and getting feedback. And we get a lot of feedback you guys every year, last year about tourism. So I would, I'm glad to answer any questions for you, but I would recommend a couple of things on here. We obviously have had stern direction from council about buildings. The only one that is left existing is the big one at the end of exit 98. You guys approved and it's in motion right now, a wayfinding committee, gateway signs there. So, as soon as that gateway signs up, we're probably about 4 or 5 months out from that actually constructed. As long as we wanna leave that billboard alone, it goes away. So, this budget is showing it funded for the entire year. I'd say maybe let's put 2 or 3 months in it, just be safe, and it go away. There's also in here to reface that billboard. I don't think y'all change your mind, you don't wanna think of that as all it is. Do that, reface it.
Sounds like the right idea to me. Council, we have any questions about that?
Sounds good.
And since this isn't very straightforward, I certainly don't suggest that we send it to consent. We certainly need to discuss it carefully, make sure we understand what we're saying, but we'll get the appropriate amounts related to, I guess, a few more months of the billboard.
Yes, sir. So it's $300 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah, for that, for rent that space.
Absolutely.
I'd like a little bit more details on it. If you're gonna go away from the billboards, then what we plan to go to? We're going away from this electronic signs. What we're gonna go to? I mean, you don't have to answer now,
A
but
lot of them, it's right here. Social media.
Yeah. So,
is that social media, especially just Facebook or other things? Okay.
Yeah, and they own, digital advertising, social media, Facebook promotion, Google ad campaigns, visit NC, event pictures. And, the town site on Facebook post that's going away, because that's, so we're looking at that, TikTok, a lot of other social medias. Plus, we got some information from tourism on print media, what's working, what's not. And I think y'all all, show excitement about our state magazine. That's where most of it, we're just not getting traction. I feel like, and it's gonna fail.
I agree, don't go to, let's just keep a look on it.
so do we want to approve, well, actually, we do need to approve this budget because I believe we were told we need to get them something. So with what we have in front of us, we'll make that adjustment related to the billboards and get rid of the refacing conversation. And then again, what you see before you with the FY 26-27 amounts are the amounts we intend to spend as far as tourism marketing are concerned, just related to the town of Selma in here. To add to the conversation about some of the visual marketing, video production, we have a number in here for video production, which is the same as last year, but the Visitors Bureau has, I guess, began working with or contracting with or has working for them, an employee working for them that is expected to do the video marketing. So that money now can be lumped back into the Visitors Bureau to have them come and do video marketing in the town of Selma. So,
And as far as approving it this early, I get that, that's not. It's still a living document, your living document, it changes every year. We see something working, not working, or something new comes in.
so with that, I'd ask you to entertain a motion to approve the tourism budget before you with the adjustments related to of 3 months of billboard usage.
Yeah, change that's a $900.
$900, 3 months worth of billboard usage, and no reskinning of any billboards. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, very cool. Got kind of interesting things coming out of the Visitors Bureau and tourism these days. Excited to see what we got going on. In fact, I believe our vice president now for the Johnson County Visitors Bureau is in the audience today. So we're excited to see what you folks cook up over this fiscal year. Thank you. Let's see. FY 25-26 quarterly financial report. A little bit of information only. Let's talk about it.
And this, in July, council asked to get a quarterly report put in front of them, so this is just a formality for you to do so. If any of you need to dive in deeper, in the office, we can sit down and discuss any questions or concerns that you feel you may have.
Absolutely. And going forward, and I imagine Councilman O'Ree will have a question for you. Certainly take a look at these budget reports before we get to the meetings. And it is a good time if we have very significant questions about what we see. Let's ask those questions as well. Council.
No, I already got time set up to see her next week.
Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Well, good stuff. Again, with what we're hearing around the community, we do understand that finances are important and we need to keep our eyes on them. We have done well over the last few years to make sure our finances stay in line, and certainly keeping our eye on them on a regular basis should ensure that that happens. Did you have any questions, Council?
Yeah, I'm just amused that it's okay for Councilman Overby to talk to Leanne about finance. And anyway, well, we'll get to it. Never mind.
All right.
Interesting.
With that, so to address what I believe a lot of folks saw as part of the JOCO report, Councilman Susan Watson did put out that she was resigning from the Selma Town Council, but she did rescind that resignation via email, I believe, on February 3rd.
There was a reason for that.
So with the rescinding of the resignation, by email, by anything, if we do not take an official vote to accept that resignation as a council, the resignation can be rescinded at any point in time. So that is to clarify what is happening here. And Councilman Watson is a member of our Selma Town Council. So I understand that there was some confusion in some of this conversation today, but Councilmember Watson is a member of this board. Discussions and presentations. We have switched A and C. So we have Capital Ford PD lease program presentation coming first. Who we have?
How do I adjust these slides? How do I make it go forward? You'll do it? Just tell you? Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. I'm Shane Sharp, Director of Fleet Management for Capital Ford and Capital Fleet Management. You just said something, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys and council. Thank you. You said something that was, I think, really important for this discussion. You said, we've got to keep our eye on the finances, right? So I think there's a way that we can do that with the fleet vehicles, and we can stretch our budgets out and still make sure that our officers, our employees are in new vehicles and minimizing downtime and really making sure that we're being good stewards of the constituents' money. So I want to get into that today. So the chief came to us and offered us a fleet list. Yes, go ahead. Thank you. A fleet list of the vehicles that he currently operates. And so what we did was we did an analysis on these vehicles. And so what we wanted to know, where is the appropriate time to cycle the vehicles, where it makes the most sense to make money for the city. And so what we did was we looked at each vehicle independently to know where the sweet spot was to get rid of that vehicle. So this is a listing here, as you can see. I apologize for the small print there. Hopefully you guys all have that in front of you. And so we've done each vehicle, we've broken it down to the annual mileage of the vehicle, the age of the vehicle, and come up with the appropriate time to cycle that vehicle. If you go to the next page, please. So in this discussion, what we needed to do is we needed to understand where is the sweet spot to get rid of this vehicle and provide maximum profitability for that vehicle. So there's a few things that we needed to understand. We needed to understand where can we take that vehicle back on the resale market where we can sell it at a premium? Where's the place to where another city would be interested in that vehicle and buy it at a premium? And so with the vehicles that you guys have currently in your fleet, we found a sweet spot that was around 5 years or 93,000 miles, whatever came first. There's a reason for that. Reason number one is the vehicles that you guys purchase, they come with a manufacturer's warranty of 5 years, 100,000 miles on the powertrain, which is transferable to the next buyer. That's the key. Because if we sell the vehicle, if we put it for resale at one of our lots, if we take it to an auction and resell it, the next buyer looks at that and says, there's 7,000 miles of warranty left on that vehicle. That means for most cities, that 7,000 miles looks like 6 to 8 months of usage. Maybe we get that vehicle and we're safe or secure from any potential problems that could happen. If they are, we're going to let Ford pay for it. We're going to let General Motors pay for it. We're going to let Stellantis pay for it. We have many people that will buy the vehicles from us and bring them to us and say, do a once over. While it's still under warranty, if there's any problems, let's fix it. So we find that we can resell the vehicles at a higher amount at that 93,000 mile spot. When you look at this also, there's a few things that really drive this. We need to understand the lender pool. So the large captive lenders that are connected to manufacturers, Ford Credit, General Motors Financial, Stellantis Capital, Ally, who's the largest automotive funder not captive to an OEM, those guys all have an appetite to fund vehicles up to 100,000 miles. But they lose that appetite because the fear of that vehicle coming back to them after funding a vehicle over 100,000 miles. That's not their business. That's not what they want to do. But we do see a different lending source that begins to show up there at 100,000 miles. Higher interest rate, higher risk lenders will show up there to fund vehicles. What we want to do is we want to sell your vehicles at the place where we have all the lenders so we can compete their rates against each other. When we compete their rates against each other, we get a lower rate, allowing you to sell the vehicle more at a premium because we're now keeping more of that profit in-house, okay? We also need to understand what the lender pool, the buyer pool is for these vehicles. These vehicles, typically we see the buyer pool for used vehicles, certainly with the Sheriff's Department, somewhere between 75,000 and 100,000 miles is where there's more buyers in the spot right there. So we want to fish where the fish are. We want to get rid of the vehicles where we have the most people willing to buy. So if the data supports that we can sell the vehicle at a premium, we can compete the lenders against each other, we've got more buyers there, it makes sense for us to target that spot to get rid of the vehicle. There's two other things really important here. Number one, when you look at the maintenance cost. So the industry says that for work vehicles, which all these vehicles classify as that you're probably paying around 4 cents a mile for maintenance and repair for vehicles that have 50,000 miles or less on the odometer. If you go from 50,000 to 100,000 miles, that number jumps up to 5 cents a mile. And when you go over 100,000 miles, that number goes to 9 cents a mile. And every 20 to 25,000 miles thereafter, that number jumps up 2 to 3 cents a mile, depending on the vehicle. So we want to get rid of the vehicle before it eclipses that 9 cents a mile spot. We don't want that big jump for the city to have to pay. The next piece of this is fuel. So the industry says that for work vehicles, which these vehicles qualify for, it says that those vehicles typically lose around half a mile per gallon per year in fuel economy. So it's important for us to understand what was the fuel economy for that vehicle when it was new, when it was manufactured, and what is it today based on age. And then to do that math so we know exactly what the budget should be for all of these work vehicles. So our strategy is, let's pay the minimum amount on the vehicle, the entire lifeline of that vehicle, and let's sell it at a place where we can make the most money. If you go to the next slide for me, please. So what we did was we ran that analysis. And so you'll notice here what I did. I've got a little blue slider there that picked each vehicle and what year that vehicle should be cycled in the next 5 years. Some of them had 2 rounds based on their mileage. So I run a plan for the next 5 years. How many vehicles should cycle in each year so you can build your budget? You'll go to the next slide, please. The next thing that I did was I looked at the maintenance costs. If you'll slide it up just a little bit, please. Thank you. I looked at the maintenance costs, and based on that 4 cents, 5 cents, 9 cents a mile that we talked about there, I ran the current maintenance cost analysis, maintenance and repair for each vehicle. Based on industry averages, what are you guys spending per vehicle when it comes to maintenance and repair? Now, I've given an example here of a vehicle that's operating at 9 cents a mile and how much that costs right now. We'll try to see that over here. $860, I think is what that says. And then if we cycle that down to 4 cents a mile, we cut that in half. And you'll notice on the next cycle there, on year 5, we'll cycle that vehicle out again. If you go ahead and change that for me, please. The next thing was understanding the fuel economy. So we did run the fuel economy of each vehicle when it was produced, when it was new. And then we also said, let's go ahead and do the math on what is the fuel economy degradation. We have that math in there as well for you to see. We also said the replacement vehicle, what is the fuel economy on that vehicle? So what is the net gain for us by bringing in new vehicles just when it comes to fuel costs alone? And so we've given you that math on that page. If you go to the next page, please, sir. So then we looked at a new way to fund the vehicles. Typically what we see cities and counties and towns do is they normally ask for a certain amount of budget because they need this many vehicles, and they ask for the entire expense of that vehicle up front. And so what we're saying is this: if we're planning a time to get rid of the vehicle, why pay for the whole thing? Let's only pay for the portion that we use, and that's it. So you can accomplish that to a product called a track lease. Now, a track lease, or a residual lease, as it's normally called with the municipalities and governments, it is not a strategy where you have penalties for mileage, you have no penalties for wear and tear. It's unlimited mileage, unlimited wear and tear. We simply manage to a residual. So, for example, if the vehicle is a $50,000 vehicle, we set a residual value based on what we know the vehicle will sell for at the end of the term. Since I've given you 93,000 miles, we can use an example that vehicle will probably sell on the resale market or at auction around $19,000. So if that's the case, we want to set a residual of around $15,000. That allows you to work the vehicle. At the end of the term, you bring the vehicle back, we sell it. We at least need to cover that $15,000 at the end of the term to be whole. You end up financing the difference between 50 and 15, which would be $35,000. You're buying a new $50,000 vehicle for $35,000 essentially. Okay, but you're doing it through a payment mechanism. We can set it up as an annual payment, quarterly payment, semi-annual payment. So you're doing it that way. Now, what happens to that extra money? If we sold it for $19,000, we take that money and either A, write you guys a check and you put it somewhere else in the town, or B, we take that money, we roll it into vehicle number 2, the replacement vehicle, making it less expensive. That's how we see the large municipalities, the large companies, they do it this way. And that's how they, all of a sudden, they turn their fleet vehicles into a profit center. So we're looking at the vehicles and saying, instead of spending so much money driving them until the wheels fall off, there's a strategy here that if we come up with the right place to get rid of them, this could bring more money to the city coming through the fleet vehicles. So that's what we wanted to show you. What's that look like for you guys? If you'll go to the next slide, please. So what I did was I ran an analysis based on all of those details that I just gave you. And what does it look like if we followed that model over the next 5 years? So you can see some of the things based on industry averages that I've pointed out here. I can't see it. Do you mind if I step to the side and speak too? Is that okay? So you'll notice in the top left corner, I've got 20. Thank you. In the top left corner, you can see that I've got 26 vehicles that we were able to run the analysis on that qualified for our analysis. Vehicles that wouldn't qualify for analysis would be ones we didn't have mileage, ones that when we ran this analysis was in the end of 2025. We do everything based on a January 1 to December 31 timeline, so everything's apples to apples. So any 2025 models would have been disqualified, okay? So in the top left corner, 26 vehicles in the fleet. I've got the maintenance costs listed, if you go next over to the right, of $13,382.03. That's total maintenance and repair costs for that fleet of vehicles over the last 12 months. That breaks down to $514 per vehicle a year, $42.89 per vehicle a month, or an average of 4 cents a mile is what, based on industry averages, what you guys are probably spending on the vehicles, okay? And you guys may be able to validate that. Chief may need to do that, but you certainly have these numbers where you can validate that. From a fuel cost, I have you guys right now showing, I think it's 16.50 average MPG. I've got fuel spend right now at $2.80 a gallon, $45,000, what you guys would have spent over the last 12 months on fuel for the vehicles, $1,764.08 per vehicle a year, or a total of $147.01 per vehicle a month on average, what you're spending on fuel based on industry averages. Then we moved to the track lease product that we talked about there, and I broke it down to a monthly fee. Obviously, you guys would probably pay on a mid-year or annual basis, but I put it down to a monthly fee just so we know really what these numbers look like for us. So if I go down below the black line, and it says current, if you see that. Below the black line, you see 26 vehicles. What I see on average, I went back several years to try to find what's the average number of vehicles that you buy a year. And it looks like that number was 4. We had 1 year in 2024, we had a bigger growth. We had 8 vehicles in that year.
Yeah, that was a rough year.
What's that? It was rough. I understand. But so it looks like 4. Do you guys, you agree that seems to be about right? So if we paid cash on those, $182,000 seems to be what the average acquisition price would be. Now that's for the vehicle alone. That doesn't include upfits. I don't have in this listing what upfits you had on the vehicles. This is just that vehicle itself, okay? So if $182,000 is your budget annually for replacing those 4 vehicles a year, and then I move to the right and I see the maintenance cost, the average spend there for maintenance and repair for the fleet vehicles, So $13,000. I move to the right and say fuel, my average spend is $45,000. So my fleet spend on these vehicles, my budget for these vehicles should have been $241,981.06. You may have that number right there and know what it is. We're probably pretty close, I guess, to what you guys are paying. That is based off what the industry average says you would spend on those vehicles based on the mileage and the age that you have. So here's our recommendation. Rather than doing 4 vehicles and paying cash for them, in year 1, we saw 6 vehicles that qualified in that sweet spot that we talked about, that 93,000 miles or 5 years. If I look at that, and rather than paying cash, I pay through that residual lease concept that we talked about, I would spend $58,368.28 on vehicle acquisition for 6 vehicles this year. That's a big difference than what we're spending for 4, right? The next piece, if I move over to the maintenance cost, my maintenance cost is going to drop to $12,918. The reason for that is I'm inputting new vehicles that cost less to operate. If they have a problem, they go to the shop and they get services under warranty. So again, the city is not having to write the big check. Everything's covered by the manufacturer. You should be only doing preventative maintenance, and that's it. The next piece of the puzzle there, if I look at fuel, my fuel cost stays pretty steady because you guys do have low mileage fleet. You don't put a ton of miles on the vehicles, right? So degradation hasn't had that big of an impact on that yet. So if I move over, my fleet spend is $116,591.07. That's buying 6 vehicles rather than 4. And that's in comparison to that $241,000 that you guys would normally spend to buy the 4. Then I see $27,000 of equity in those vehicles, those 6 that you would trade in. So if I apply that equity in there as well, I've got a win in year 1 of $152,000. Do you guys see that? In year 2, I recommend there's 1 vehicle that needs to be cycled out based on those sweet spots. In year 3, I recommend 10 vehicles would need to go based on those sweet spots. Year 4, I recommend 3. Year 5, I recommend 12. You'll see I've got the arrow there pointing up that says, if you do that, your maintenance and repair cost becomes very predictable. That number levels out and it's the same, it's stagnant. This is a number that you can budget very easily moving forward. Same thing's true for fuel. If you look at fuel, the next arrow, it's showing you that that number becomes very stagnant, and it's a number that you can plan on because you're calculating the fuel costs as well as the maintenance and repair costs. These costs are very important to predicting the right time to get rid of the vehicle. If you follow this plan over the next 5 years that I've laid out here, the city will receive an additional $306,050.98 by moving to that strategy. So this is new money that we found for the city by approaching this strategy this way.
And let me make a note. You do see in that where we take a hit in year 5
Yes.
for that year, but then in the total of those 5 years, that's where you get that 306.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, sir.
That's fantastic.
And that is versus your average. If I were to compare that to 2024, oh, I lost power there. If I were to compare that to 2024, that number inflates tremendously. It goes up about another $100,000 a year difference in comparison. Because you bought 8 vehicles, like you said, that was a tough year.
Let me ask you, do you folks offer the upfit to be
Sure.
built into
We'll
that?
handle all that.
You can actually use that microphone if you like.
Which one?
That little one. That one's still.
This
on.
one right here?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So yes, so we do the upfits, we do any graphics that you need, we do everything. We'll bring to you a ready-to-go work vehicle.
And you'll cycle that into the.
Absolutely, in the payments, that's right. And then we'll also consider at the end of the term, have the vehicles that you're looking to replace it with, have they changed in body style small enough that we could recycle the upfits? Maybe lights can recycle through, maybe something, right? Anything like that we can recycle, we'll try to put it in for another cycle, therefore decreasing the cost of the second round of vehicles.
So realistically, you folks end up tracking the amortization of vehicle for us.
Correct.
And then with that, you keep these statistics and information for the vehicles as well?
We do. So we offer a complete fleet management program. And what we'll do is we'll monitor this information for you. We track your maintenance spend, we track your repair spend, we track your fuel spend, we track everything that's going on with the vehicle. We have a mid-year review, an annual review meeting with you and your team, and we go over these numbers so that we are all together to make sure that we're bringing money back to the city, so the city doesn't get upside down in this.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so this continues to carry on as we look at this. If you'll go to the next slide for me, sir. To hit that $300,000, you'll see the little wheel that I've got in the middle. I think one of the big keys here is to minimize fuel spend. Although I talked about you guys don't have a ton of miles that you put on, We want to make sure that we hit a metric and we hold that metric down for both fuel spend and for maintenance spend. So we're looking here, and we've got it in the red there that you guys do 17% right now of your fleet spend is on fuel. And we can hold that down at 15% and make that a metric that the city is working towards to achieve, okay? The next thing you'll see is that maintenance cost down at the bottom where the curve swings up in year 2 and then comes back down to year 5 and levels out. At year 5, we are fully absorbed in the program. All the vehicles now would be in the program, and that would cover you. So everything now becomes very plateau, very budgetable, very predictable for you. Although I've done this on the sheriff's vehicles, this is something that you could carry out throughout the entire city if you so choose.
Wow. Something to think about.
Absolutely. We've got much more on fleet management and things that we offer, but I know that we're stressed for time, so certainly want to thank you for the opportunity to show this to you. Look forward to talking to you about it more.
We're excited about this. This is very
Thank
cool.
you.
I was thrilled. One of our major bass brought this to our budget conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we all thought we were going to hear hogwash. I'll be honest with
Sure, I
you.
get it.
And voila, something that makes sense.
So I come from General Motors and did this program for General Motors for years. One of my largest customers was FedEx. FedEx will buy 8,000 units from us a year. This is exactly the model and how they do it. So they buy it, they run this track lease and get rid of it. They keep them 2 years, get rid of the vehicles and make money. They make those vans become a profit center, not just the revenue coming from the van, but the van itself. So that's the same strategy we're talking about here. How do we bring more money to the city?
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
so
That is
much for
cool.
coming. Major Bass did a wonderful job presenting this at our budget meeting.
Yeah,
And I was really looking forward to hearing more about this. This is very interesting,
thank you.
and I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hope I did him justice.
Did we have any questions otherwise before they run? All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, wait.
Maybe one.
Councilman
Yeah,
Overton.
sir, please.
One. What vehicle gets wrecked?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be the same thing if you financed a vehicle or paid cash for a vehicle, you've got insurance that's covering that, right? So the same thing would happen here, the exact same process, regardless if it's a leased vehicle, if it's a financed vehicle, if it's a cash paid vehicle. You let your insurance cover that, cover the difference. We go get another one for you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And because we have 37 locations in the Carolinas, we've got inventory ready to go. So there are a ton of vehicles that are on the ground ready. You'll find that we move much faster to get you a vehicle when you need one.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you. All right. It is that time of the year again, all in red time, and we've got an all in red proclamation to share with everybody and discuss our abilities to address heart health awareness. So before me, I have a proclamation honoring February 2026 as all in red month. Whereas the well-being of our community is of paramount importance, and maintaining excellent heart health among our citizens remains a top priority. And whereas February marks the month-long countywide heart health awareness campaign titled All in Red, organized by UNC Health Johnston and Johnston Health Foundation. And whereas heart disease continues to be a leading cause of death in the United States and in North Carolina, claiming more lives annually than any other cause and representing approximately 19% of all deaths in North Carolina. And cardiovascular conditions, including heart disease and stroke, are responsible for a substantial portion of preventable mortality throughout our region. And whereas research shows that up to 80% of premature deaths from heart disease and stroke could be prevented through increased physical activity, improved diet, education, and proper medication, condition management. And whereas local health data indicates that adults in Johnston County experience elevated rates of high blood pressure, obesity, and cardiovascular hospitalizations compared to state and national averages, underscoring the importance of community engagement in prevention and education efforts. And whereas All in Red provides a meaningful opportunity to raise awareness about heart health while addressing the growing needs of local cardiology patients, promoting early prevention, lifestyle improvements, and connection to care. And whereas the All in Red campaign encourages all Johnston County residents, business owners, and visitors to participate by wearing red on National Wear Red Day tomorrow. Friday, February 6, 2026. And whereas we honor heart disease and stroke survivors, those currently battling these conditions, their families who provide unwavering love and encouragement, and we also applaud the dedication of our medical professionals and caregivers who deliver quality care and work tirelessly to improve cardiovascular health outcomes. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Byron McAllister, and the Town of Selma Town Council do hereby proclaim February 2026 as All in Red Month in the town of Selma and encourage businesses, organizations, schools, and citizens throughout the community to participate in this impactful initiative. If we decide to proclaim this, do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we all know somebody who's been affected by heart disease or heart problems. It's important. Got a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Duly proclaimed this 5th day of February, 2026, while in regular session. And it will be all in red day tomorrow. I think we're scheduled for a town picture. Is it tomorrow at 11?
11:30.
11:30. Tomorrow at 11:30, we're scheduled to get some town pictures, and maybe we'll all be able to stop by that and get a shot. All right. Coming up next, we got some conversation about parks and recreation.
Yes, sir. A few months ago, we were asked to put this together, having difficulty getting rid of the numbers. Apologize for that. I think it didn't come out to you earlier, so that's probably haven't had much time to put this information on, that answer any questions about it. Go through line to line, it's 2 years of data, the overview on the first page. Every story.
It does.
We use this analysis,
Very valuable note is that the more folks that you have seem to be doing okay. The less folks that you have, you're not doing so great. That's generally how it goes. Like that conversation about the vehicles. We need to make sure we find the sweet spot for all these sports and maybe adhere to some levels where it's not going to happen if we don't have enough signups. But this is a good start, but of course, there's always the conversation about making sure we grow programs, but somewhat different from the doom and gloom that we saw on a different sheet previously. This looks about right, and again, we definitely can do better to make sure that we are producing programs that have the appropriate revenue and very supportive for our Parks and Rec program. What else do we have, council? All right, it's good information, good stuff to very carefully take a look at as we go into this calendar and fiscal year. This brings us down to our consent agenda. We've got approval of minutes from 2025, August 9, open forum. And then we have, moving down from 5C, we're gonna have 7B, that CDBG application. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Got that going, and that brings us to council members' report and recommendations. Councilman Overby.
I just wanted the council to let you know that on February the 10th, I've been summoned to jury.
Oh.
So I don't know how long I'll be there. Maybe I'll get out of it and won't have to go at all, but I won't know until the night before. So I want you to be aware that we have a council meeting that night, I think. So,
I mean, I honestly hope you catch a cool case though.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But thank you for keeping us aware. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Whitley.
Good evening, everybody. It's so good to see everyone here. And I wanted to make a note from our budget meeting. I was one of these people when I worked in Raleigh. It gets dark real early in the wintertime. And I appreciate anybody that's coming from Raleigh from Durham, from anywhere. I appreciate everyone that makes an effort to come to these town council meetings. I did, and I guess that's it for this evening. Thank you all for coming, and I hope everybody has a good weekend.
Councilman Watson?
Oh, yeah, I got a lot to say. What you guys saw here tonight is about control. I have become a target because I am inquisitive and I like to know things. When I hear the mayor talk about that I was gathering information that I didn't use, what does it matter? I have a right to have that information as a council person. And he's talking about the fact that I asked Leanna Blanton for a list of people, resignations, dismissals, whatever, because I was concerned about the rate at which we were losing employees in this town. We have a problem, and it's not me. We have a toxic work environment. I hear it. One of the first weeks I was on this council, I had a person who still works here actually to call me and wanted me to meet them somewhere out of town to tell me about the things that bothered them about the work environment. So when you dig in and try to do your job as a council person, the mayor wants to control you. So now he's going to make it so I can't talk to the staff because he don't want me to know anything. This is about control. It's not about anything I've done bad. He had, 10 days to write a long, flowery speech about all the bad things I've done. You would think I'm responsible for all the sins in the world. I knew Michael Ford was going out on a boating trip with my brother-in-law. So, I mean, I've been here 65 years. For me to say, oh, well, he's probably not here because he's on a fishing trip, and then he makes it sound like I'm throwing out names like I know everybody. Well, I do. I've been here my whole life. But it's puzzling to me because not long ago, in what I thought was a conversation between us that was pretty productive, he said, you don't even live here. I said, what do you mean I don't live here? He said, you're gone all the time. Well, I am. I have a home in Carteret County. I'm building another home down there, actually. I have an apartment in Raleigh. I have a house in Selma. I'm on the road a lot. Yeah. But I live here, and for somebody that's not known me any longer than he has, I thought that was a heck of a statement. Because anybody in this room that's grown up here knows that I built a house in Princeton in 1993, but I still worked in Selma every single day. Inez Creech kept my children. She lived on Waddell Street. Chris and I would get here at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd go to work. My mother and I would cook dinner for my father and Chris and I would go home usually at 8 o'clock at night. It was always a joke that why did we build that house down there? Because we never stayed there. Selma has always been my home. So for somebody to tell me I don't live here, they don't know me. So was I hot a while ago when that flowery speech came out about all these things I supposedly have done? Yeah, it really irritates me because I've not done anything but try to help this town. I am just gonna let it go at that, but to be censured by this board means absolutely nothing to me because I'm not the problem. So I had some remarks prepared. It says, I'm saddened but not surprised at the vote to censure me. I knew it would happen. I knew coming in here tonight that regardless of how I defended myself and proved the pettiness of these allegations, Councilman Scarborough and Councilwoman Whitley would vote lockstep with this mayor, as they historically do. But what is censure? Basically, it's used to call out your fellow board members for behaviors unbecoming to their office. It basically says, we don't like you. No surprise there. And we're going to let everybody know it. There was nothing normal about this censure. It was a politically motivated and it was a childish drama among a group of grown adults. I'm embarrassed to serve on this council. I have served on numerous boards, the First Citizens Bank Board of Directors, the Johnston County Education Foundation, the Johnston County Health Foundation, the North Carolina Board of Optometry. I was appointed by the governor. The Friends of the Library, the Princeton Town Board, the Johnston County Executive Board of the GOP, and I am currently the chair of the Johnston County Department of Social Services. It's amazing that I've served on all of these boards and I've never had one disagreement with one person, ever. I don't think I'm the problem. I'm sure many of you were surprised to witness the spectacle that took place tonight. And to the citizens of Selma, I apologize for wasting your time. As members of this council, we should be solving problems that affect our citizens. Let's be honest. The intent was to embarrass me in public and to tarnish my name because I have an opinion that is different from the mayor, and because I believe in open public discussion, which we rarely have. But I'm not embarrassed, and I'm not mad. I'm actually proud of myself for standing up and answering these baseless allegations. I am absolutely certain that Mayor McAllister had no idea that I would defend myself. This censure is precisely why good people hesitate to serve in public office. Now, for complete transparency, let me tell a bit about how these events transpired. I had not planned on running for a second term on this board, but after meeting and getting to know our former manager, I was excited to serve with her. Alexis Carter was a policy-driven manager, much like myself. She was a rule follower. She understood that the town's charter dictates the authority of each position and the division of power in our town's government. We understood that. With her resignation, I knew this board would go back to the lockstep voting, and researching the issues would simply be a waste of my time. On January the 21st, our mayor held a budget meeting in Durham. I emailed my objection to this location, citing the 4 p.m. late afternoon hour, the drive time, and the lack of availability to our citizens. This protest was most likely the final thing that led to this censure. He was just tired of not being able to control Councilwoman Watson. That's really my offense. On January the 27th, I announced my resignation from the Selma Town Council, a decision I had carefully considered and I had planned to formalize at the February 10th meeting. I intended my departure to be respectful and free of unnecessary conflict, and for that reason, I limited my public explanation to noting that the board's direction and conduct had come to conflict with my values and perspective. I didn't want this drama, but it became very apparent to me that if I didn't come defend myself, Mayor McAllister was going to read that long list of accusations and that long flowery speech that painted me into some villain, and I wouldn't be here to defend it. I'm proud of myself for standing up and saying that those things are not true about me. Okay? It is important to me that you all realize I did not resign because I suspected that I was going to be censured. I had no idea or reason to expect that was going to happen. Not one person on this board has ever talked to me about my personality or my conduct being a problem. That was a lie that he said in that speech, because he has never talked to me about that. We've had some good conversations, but he's never once said to me that my comments or anything I've done was inappropriate or not true. And I am just flabbergasted that he would do that. I mean, I'm appalled. I lost every bit of respect I had for any of them. Gosh. In my written response to the mayor, I clearly stated that my resignation was not an admission of wrongdoing nor an agreement with his allegations. I also reserved my right to defend myself should further action be taken. When it became apparent that he was determined to censure me, I decided to obtain legal counsel. Our first step was to quietly rescind my resignation. Now, make sure you understand this. I didn't flip-flop. I didn't resign in July and then come back and then come resign here and then come back. It was a strategy because we felt that I needed to be back on council so I would have access to due process, which I was denied. All of these things that he threw out here that he said about me, I did not know what they were going to be until I got here tonight. So he had all that time to prepare. I had 10 minutes to speak. That is very unfair, very unethical. So, what good has all this done for Selma? Not one thing. It's made us look like a clown show. What harm have I done by asking questions and raising concerns? I see that as my job. Is it my fault that my questions and concerns are always seen as an attack against this board? I am by nature inquisitive. I normally find that other people appreciate that. Questions are merely attempts to understand and maybe provide another point of view. What's wrong with that? Again, I am sorry for the blight that this activity might bring to Selma, and I hope you all will remember who initiated it. Thank you for being here, and thank you to those who showed up to support me.
Thanks, Councilman Watson.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Glad you guys came out tonight to be with us. And like I always say, and I keep saying it, we keep the main thing, and it's SCLMA, it is self. Not about Joe, not about Barb, Amy, William, Susan. It's Selma. And regardless all hurt feeling and bruised ego, Selma will always be the top target. It doesn't matter because Joe be going tomorrow, but Selma's still here to try to strive. And that's what we're here for, to try to get Selma to stay in the trajectory going on now, because if you just look back to 2019 to 2026, you may have 30 stores then, we're at over 100 now. So what you want to say, the facts are the facts. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we've got a few items to take care of tonight. I think on A, from my report and recommendations, some recommendations to make some adjustments to our advisory board, which is our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I believe Councilman Overby touched on it at our December meeting at the Civic Center, that we've got the library money that is left from the super fund to be worked on by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And there have been concerns about the Parks and Rec Advisory Board's ability to manage some of the things it has to manage. So with that, I am suggesting a motion to remove, first and foremost, Mr. Don Barker from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Nay.
So that's a nay from Councilman Overby and a nay from Councilwoman Watson. And then with that, a motion to remove Mrs. Kimberly Bundy from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Again, with the concerns raised and the conversations we've had about some of the happenings with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, I think it's appropriate. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, what has been ineffective?
So we have had hour and a half, 2-hour Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meetings with less than we have on our agendas, and have gotten little to no actual recommendations from the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for many meetings now.
So why remove just 2 people?
Well, the genesis, from what I've seen in some of the recordings after it's mentioned to me, some of the concerns that are there, is that we have a lot of conversation without a lot of action. And the work that needs to happen outside of these meetings to make sure that we are coming into meetings to get things done isn't happening. So again, you know, I've mentioned to boards and advisory boards and committees regularly that we do need to try to hold our meetings to a limit. We have staff that are affected by these meetings, and the amount that they have to do to sit in these rooms without getting any actual results can't continue.
So they all volunteers, right?
Yes.
They don't get paid. The advisory board went to a meeting every 3 months, is that correct?
They're mandated to meet every quarterly, but they can certainly meet more. In fact, we made that move to give them some flexibility.
And they make recommendations, and only we can approve them or not approve.
They haven't made any recommendations recently. So that is one of the concerns, that we have not seen any recommendations. So with that being said, we got a motion and a second on the table. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Nay,
Nay.
That's a nay from Councilman Overby and Councilwoman Watson. All right, and then moving right along to B, the conversation about our Upper Coastal Plains Rural Planning Organization. Our TAC committee representative, Councilwoman Watson, I do suggest we remove
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Watson from that position. All for it.
I sure am.
Do I have a motion to remove Councilwoman Watson from the UCPRPO TAC?
So moved.
Discussion.
Yes, I would suggest some training for whoever goes there. Because there was absolutely none. Mike and I did our best. And he resigned, and he's really doing well over in Smithfield. That's amazing.
I would say what we have found out, and well, I have found out, and I imagine the rest of us found out as well, we don't get any training for these political positions that is anything for any of these boards or
Not
commissions.
necessarily mean training, but it's like, at least tell them what they're supposed to do. Apparently, Taylor didn't even know anything about it. So when he got into that position, somebody should have told him. And then I went by and left him an email, and I don't know what happened to that. They put it on a sticky note, but he was just learning. It probably got lost in the shuffle. And I actually, when I went by and told him he needed to call again in January, I didn't want to get him in trouble because I thought he might lose his job. So I said, just blame it on me. So there you go. Want the truth? Now I'm gonna make a list and he'll be gone too.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
nay.
Nay.
That's nays from Councilman Overby and Councilwoman Watson. Okay, and then with that, we will need to assign a TAC committee member for the Upper Coastal Plains Rural Planning Organization. I motion to appoint Councilwoman Amy West Whitley to the Upper Coastal Plains Rural Planning Organization TAC committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Ah.
Aye.
Nay,
One nay.
Sorry, I had to eye that one.
One nay. Councilman Overby. So we do have that filled in. And again, that is a very important conversation related to our transportation future in this community, in this region. With that, we might not think that these things are important to cross the T's and dot the I's in the town of Selma. We might think we have time to play. But I will point out very clearly that we have many communities that are finding themselves in very unfortunate situations because of not crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And the town of Selma was in a pretty rough place 8 years ago. And if we don't understand that, that's fine. If we don't accept that, that's fine. It does not change the reality that we have changed, and we have to continue to keep our foot on the gas to make sure we stay above water in what is certainly a new environment for not only the town of Selma, but really our entire state, as people are flocking to come to North Carolina and Johnston County. We are going to have differing opinions, differing ideas about how to get things done. But at the end of the day, we will all only be held accountable for the results. And we have seen what the results looked like 8 years ago. I'll be hard pressed to hear anybody say the results aren't pretty awesome right now. I think Olive Garden opens up next week. And you're right. Developers come in and do fantastic things when your town puts together a fantastic foundation and gives mechanisms to make sure that developers can build. Because there has been that conversation of what Mr. Kevin Doherty has finally accomplished in Selma, North Carolina for 20 years. And there was a reason that wheels were spinning for 15 of those years. Hey, results. Hey, I heard recently that we even got compliments on how efficient our meetings are. We have run long today, and I apologize. Other administrators, other town staff are trying to figure out how we do it. Selma is amazing. We're going to continue to be amazing. If you don't like amazing, this probably isn't the place for you. Friday, tomorrow, we've got our All in Red picture happening at 11:30 for the town of Selma. At 6 p.m., we've got the daddy-daughter dance happening. Coming up on Saturday, we've got the Polar Bear Run. You register at 8:45 a.m. The run's actually at 10 a.m. We do need to have a conversation about housing our disabled veterans in the town of Selma. Now that they have lost their space in Smithfield, they have come and asked us to see if we can find some space for them here. Let's be prepared to have a decent discussion about that on Tuesday. We'll get some information from staff about if we can make that happen. We do need to go back also in our upcoming meeting and look at our internal policy for code enforcement. I'm not sure it's a very good idea. We do need to review our fee schedule for code as well to make sure we've crossed the T's and dotted the I's there. Of course, code enforcement to keep Selma amazing has been important. And then we also need to look at an appeals process for the folks that have received violations and invoices before January 1, 2026. We clearly haven't been doing code enforcement for a significant period of time. Over the last few years, we've really jumped on it. We need to make sure we show some grace to those who are trying their best to get in line with our code. Otherwise, any closed session?
Not for me, sir.
Thank goodness. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.